flick on header is into the back of the net. And it's Alexis McAllister again. Back post. Oh, it's gone in. Little flick, an overhead kick, and it's gone in. And Sunderland through Brian Brobbey might have just got a point here. There's another go. Oh, fabulous from Rashford. Absolutely tearing it up. Oh, he's done it. Oh, what a finish. Can you believe it? Arsenal had the set-piece proficiency coming into it, but that is an unbelievable goal from Dominic Szoboszlai. Here's a chance one-on-one. Round the goalkeeper. It's 2-1. Brighton have turned it around. He's at the crossbar. Manchester United are out. Grimsby Town have one of the most unbelievable cup upsets in the Carabao Cup history. A very good afternoon. Welcome to Premier League Live this Sunday afternoon on a weekend that has been very well packed with goals and drama already this weekend. We have two games to bring you to conclude match day 15 this weekend. We start with the London derby at Craven Cottage, Fulham taking on Crystal Palace, and then we round off tomorrow night as Wolves host Manchester United at Molineux. Already this weekend, let's show you what has happened in the 8 games that have taken place over today and yesterday. It all started yesterday lunchtime when Aston Villa needed a late winner from Emi Buendia to take all 3 points off the league leaders Arsenal, really shake up the top of the table. We will show you the table before we start. It was Leandro Trossard that got Arsenal back into the game after Matty Cash gave Villa the lead early in that one. That was to really set the tone for the weekend. It was a goalless draw between Bournemouth and Chelsea, both sides well matched on the day and neither side able to find a way past the other. It was a comfortable day for David Moyes and Everton, who moved up to 5th, at least momentarily last night, with their 3-0 win over Nottingham Forest. A dominant display against Sean Dyche's Forest, the former Everton manager. Well beaten in that one. Nikola Milenkovic with an own goal after just 2 minutes. Tierno Barry with his first Everton goal and a third late in the second half through Kiernan Dewsbury Hall sealed the points for the Toffees. A comfortable 3-0 home win. Speaking of comfortable 3-0 home wins, the same for Manchester City, who made easy work of Sunderland and, as I said, closed that gap to Arsenal at the top with said win against Sunderland. Ruben Dias and Joško Vardiol gave them a lead, a 2-goal lead inside 35 minutes. Phil Foden, who's on real hot form at the moment, 5 goals in his last 3 games now for Phil Foden. He made it 3-0. A late red card, shall I say, Luke O'Nien was sent off in the 95th minute. It was initially a yellow. VAR overturned it and gave a red card, so it finished 3-0 to Manchester City. A big win for Newcastle at home. We'll see the result for them, but Burnley kept themselves in the mix late on, but it wasn't to be enough. Bruno Guimaraes and Anthony Gordon got them 2-0 in front for Newcastle. However, Burnley did go down to 10 men. Lucas Perez was shown a straight red card for professional last man foul on a Newcastle player, therefore sent off. Then a penalty was given shortly after for Anthony Gordon to make it 2-0. They got a late consolation through Zian Fleming from the penalty spot, but that was all it was to be. A late consolation, and ultimately it is now 6 defeats in a row for Burnley. A torrid run of form for Scott Parker's team. To North London, where it was all the action between Spurs and Brentford. Thomas Frank against his former side for the first time since taking over as Spurs manager, and a comfortable day it was for Spurs. Richarlison and Xavi Simons on the score sheet for Tottenham in that 2-0 victory, a comfortable home victory and a much needed home victory for Spurs. only their second home win of the season in 8 home games. They are one of the worst sides at home, and they much needed that victory yesterday, and a clean sheet as well, and they moved themselves up into the top half. It was all goals and drama at Elland Road yesterday evening between the champions Liverpool and Leeds United, who've had a fantastic week. Leeds scoring 6 goals against Chelsea and Liverpool respectively over the space of a couple of days. What an atmosphere it was at Elland Road again. But a quiet first half. Liverpool cruised into a 2-goal lead at the start of the second. Ugo Ekitike, with his first ever Liverpool brace, gave them a 2-goal lead. Willie Gnonto then won a penalty for Leeds in the 71st minute. Dominic Calvert-Lewin dispatched that to get the game back in it for Leeds, before Anton Stack, just 2 minutes later, gave Leeds United an equaliser to make it 2-2. Dominic Szoboszlai scored a third for Liverpool to make it 3-2 in the 80th minute. And just when Liverpool thought they were going to escape with all 3 points, Ao Tanaka, who scored a cracker against Chelsea in midweek, well, he scored another great goal in the 96th minute to rescue a point for Leeds United. It finished 3-3 at Elland Road. And earlier this afternoon, it finished 1-1 between Brighton and West Ham in the early game. Jared Bowen, with the opener for the Hammers, for Jorginho Ruter in the 91st minute, sealed a point for the Seagulls. That is all 8 results from this weekend so far, but we've 2 games to bring you. Fulham taking on Crystal Palace, which is about to get underway in just the next few minutes, and Wolves taking on Manchester United. But first, let's have a look at the teams for this one this evening. And Fulham start with Bernd Leno in goal. Kenny Tete, Joachim Andersen, Calvin Bassey and Timothy Castagna are in a back 4. Sander Berge and Alex Iwobi are in midfield. Smith Rowe starts in the 10. Wilson off the right. Hero of the midweek game, Samuel Chukwueze, who got a brace to get Fulham back in the mix against Manchester City. He starts on the left, and Raul Jimenez starts up front. On the bench for the Cottagers, Lecomte, Cuenca, Diop, Lukic, Kearney, King, Kevin, Traore and Kusi Asari. For Crystal Palace, no Daniel Munoz for them today. A knee problem, says Oliver Glasner. Dean Henderson starts in goal. Nathaniel Klein, 34-year-old Nathaniel Klein, comes in at right wing-back. Richards, Lacroix and Gehi, the back 3, with Mitchell at left wing-back. In midfield, Adam Wharton alongside Daichi Kamara. Jeremy Pino is alongside Eddie Nketiah in these kind of 10 roles behind the leading striker, Jean-Philippe Mateta. On the bench for Palace, Matthews, Benitez, Canvat, Lerma, Sosa, Esse, Hughes, Devaney and Uche. A London derby on the banks of the River Thames. Fulham against Crystal Palace. Palace could move up into the top 4 with a win. Fulham, they need a win. They're in 15th, teetering above the relegation zone. It's all on the line here this Sunday afternoon in the Premier League. Kick-off between Fulham and Crystal Palace is next. A very good afternoon. Welcome to Premier League Live. Fulham against Crystal Palace is our matchup for this Sunday afternoon. A bit of an unorthodox 4:30 on a Sunday, but we bring them and take them as they come. And we're looking forward to this one. Some really unique storylines for this one. As I said, Crystal Palace could make themselves a top 4 team by the end of the evening. If they come away with all 3 points, they will leapfrog Everton and Chelsea up into that 4th spot, and would find themselves just 7 points off the league leaders, which is quite a feat for Oliver Glasner's Palace, who are having a wonderful season. But for Fulham, as I said, they now sit just a couple of points off that relegation zone, and a topsy-turvy form, conceding a lot of goals, certainly, in midweek as well. They need a real mood-boosting win. It'll move them up just a few places, but certainly in the right direction if they can get all 3 points. Looking forward to this one then. Elsewhere up in Scotland, north of the border, Celtic 0, Hearts 2. A real battle for the title up in Scotland. Celtic had the chance to go 3 points clear today with the game in hand, but it looks like Hearts are going to get the 3 points clear. But Celtic will still have that game in hand. We'll talk about that as the evening goes on. As we get underway at Craven Cottage, Fulham in all whites and Crystal Palace in their home strip of blue and red striped shirts with blue shorts. A London derby that's bubbled under over the last few years. There's always excitement when these two come to the field of play, and certainly this season these two have given us some entertaining games. Certainly Fulham, the most recent in midweek, and they treated us to a 9-goal thriller here. They were 5-1 down, got it all the way back to 5-4 with a chance in touching distance of scraping a point out of Manchester City. And albeit they just couldn't get the final goal over the line, but my goodness, they fought for it. And a man who scored 2 on that night is rewarded with a place in the starting 11, Samuel Chukwueze, starting on the left-hand side of that attacking line for Fulham. Wharton, nice takedown in the midfield, finds Nathaniel Klein, who starts in that right wing, of course, that right wing back of with the absence of Daniel Munoz. He's a real stalwart to the way Palace attack. Nice work from Kamara here. Works it out to Mitchell. Mitchell trying the cross. Blocked by Kenny Tete and cleared away that time by Joachim Andersen. Trying to deny the corner. Palace retrieve possession once again. Andy in the chat says, afternoon mate, hope your weekend is going well. Very well it is so far. Says Mateta to score and Palace to keep a clean sheet. Interesting. Very interesting. As Eddie Nketiah trying to get physical with Calvin Bassey. Commits a foul. And that will get Fulham a little bit of respite there in the early moments of this one. His 50th appearance for Crystal Palace today for Eddie Nketiah. Want to mark that well. It's an interesting matchup between these two managers that have done so well with their respective clubs. Fulham have really had a number of years of stability under Marco Silva. This year a little tougher for them. Not getting quite the wrinkle of the results as they would have expected with their kind of performances in games. Crystal Palace quite the opposite. Incredible run of form and certainly one of the best teams outside of the title contenders in the Premier League overall. Just 3 defeats in 14 games this season. 6 wins, 5 draws. So more often than not, Crystal Palace find a way of getting something out of a game of football, which is a very good thing for a team that wants to be competing for European football, and in European football, of course, at the minute, in the Conference League. Three minutes gone. Not much really has happened to this point. Crystal Palace with the early possession, but nothing dangerous having come from the early spells. And thank you all for joining us for this one this afternoon. It's great to have your company. It's been an intriguing day in the Premier League, shall we say. Very interesting day. I've got to say, this Sunday afternoon, it's not the headline fixtures that we're so used to around Christmas time, but they will come. But these are ones that are close battles nonetheless, between teams very well matched, very well coached, and certainly fighting for a lot themselves. And these two at very different ends of the table, with a lot of expectation coming into this one. Here's Joachim Andersen. Down the right-hand side comes Tete. Fulham try and work their first angles, but Iwobi there puts it straight out of play. Trying to fire it towards Harry Wilson. Not quite finding his target on that occasion. Mitchell throws it in. Oh, a little bit tight there from Guehi, but he does well to release it. Back to Henderson, who fires long, but nice second ball won by Wharton, but Eddie Nketiah couldn't link it up, and Fulham keeping it tight in the middle, not allowing Palace to play at their own will. Here's Iwobi. Back it goes to Anderson. Now across to Bassey. Tries to get it down the left channel. Nice block by Nketiah, but Wharton couldn't bring it in. A little bit slidey as Castagna finds it out wide to Smith Rowe. Now back inside to Berger. Started every Premier League game that, for Fulham this season, Sander Berger. Real important figure in this side. Marco Silva has a lot of trust in Sander Berger. And that midfield is Chris Richards has a cross to deal with there from Castagna and puts it out for the throw-in. Back to Bassey. Anderson. Fired out to the left channel. Beautifully taken in by Castagna with the chest. He's got Klein for company. Castagna finds it into Smith Rowe. Into the box come Fulham. Cuts it back to Berger. Couldn't quite get to it, but he's got the ball now. Iwobi. Chips it over the top. Wilson's in behind. Ball falls to Jimenez. Couldn't really bring it in. He's still got somewhat control. So he cuts it back for Iwobi. He forces the save of Dean Henderson, but the flag's gone up against Harry Wilson in the build-up to that goal. A little chip ball by Iwobi. Wilson just strayed offside a little bit before that. And that's going to be a free kick to Palace. But nice movement from Fulham. Able to keep it alive and then eventually get the shot off and force the save out of the goalkeeper. Ultimately offside in the build-up, but nice move with them not knowing about the offside. Decent start here from the home team. They've worked it well again. Down the left-hand side is Chukwueze. Finds Smith Rowe. Gets it across Lacroix. Blocked behind for the corner. Fulham starting to come out of their shell a little bit more. Force themselves a little further forward and impose a little bit of pressure on Crystal Palace. So they have the first corner of the game. Down this left-hand side. Two over there to keep an eye on. I think it might be Iwobi and Castagna, I suspect. Here's Iwobi's delivery, right footed. It's headed over the top by Mateta, who had to make that header. Looked like it was dipping in. See it again. Beautiful delivery. It misses everybody's head in there. I think Mateta doesn't get to that. It's a real scramble around the goal line. Puts it behind for another corner. Opposite side this time as Harry Wilson comes across to take. And Iwobi's there to meet him again. And two over it once more. Wilson takes it short to Iwobi. Iwobi whips it across and the strike is skimmed just wide by Emile Smith Rowe. Beautiful connection. Again, right off the training ground. Wilson walks away from it. Iwobi whips it in low, right onto the penalty spot. Bounces as it comes in. And hitting it on the volley, Smith Rowe. It comes off a Palace player, but he couldn't hit it any sweeter there, Emile Smith Rowe. And now it's Mark Gurhey with a key block. Puts it behind for the third Fulham corner in succession. Wilson delivers this time. Flicked on the near post. Back in it comes. Cleared away. All Fulham at the minute. Wilson back to Iwobi. Low drop as it bounces around the penalty area and away by Wharton. Only as far as Iwobi again. As Jimenez shields it out wide to Wilson, but the referee's going to pull it back for a foul on Alex Iwobi. And that will get a free kick to Fulham. Oh my goodness. Last few minutes it really has been Fulham throwing themselves at Crystal Palace, and Palace hanging on a little bit this moment. As the referee this afternoon, Sam Barrett, VAR's Darren England. Alex Iwobi over this free kick. Number of set pieces in a row here for Fulham. Barrett, key Mark Gurhey block, a key Jean-Philippe Mateta header. Fulham could have really had a real clear shot of goal on a couple of occasions in the first 9 minutes of this game. Will be over this free kick. Fairly central. So he fizzes it round the back. Up the head of Klein and behind for another corner. Had to take evasive action there, Nathaniel Klein, as I think Harry Wilson was sneaking in behind him. Another Fulham corner. That's 4 corners for Fulham. Crystal Palace haven't had a corner yet. Been barely out of their own final third in the last 5 minutes. So another 2-person corner routine. So Iwobi this time whips it round the back post. There's queuing up. Bounces around. Still not away from Richards. Then it is cleared away. Multiple times Fulham have tested Crystal Palace in those set pieces, and so far they've just about dealt with them. Certainly not without a little bit of scrambling in the box. Here's Anderson. Bassey. Fired down the left-hand side towards Wilson's path and broken apart by Camera. Pino does well to find it to Wharton. Back out wide it goes to Klein. He's breaking down that left-hand or right-hand side, and Nathaniel Klein does enough to win a corner here for Crystal Palace. Good block down that right-hand side, and that'll be the test this afternoon at Palace. They usually do have blistering pace down that right-hand side with Daniel Munoz, but Klein, no disrespect to Nathaniel Klein, but certainly not in the same universe pace-wise, but did well there to win a corner. Set piece for Crystal Palace. Fulham have had their way in the last few minutes without scoring. What can Palace do in response? Just Wharton to deliver. Left-footed, whipped in, sweeping around as Iwobi gets his head to it. Not far away with Jimenez trying to cover it over. And he might catch the man there in Crystal Palace colours, and he does see that as Jeremy Pino is the one that's brought down. We see it again here. It's cleared away right to the left-hand side. Pino does well, brings it down, and Jimenez trying to cover him over. Just kind of lifts his boot high. Oh, right in the face of Jeremy Pino. It's accidental, but it's dangerous from Raul Jimenez. It's a high boot. The VAR clearing that one as accidental and just a free kick. I think that's the fair decision. I think I understand it's a high boot from Raul Jimenez. There was no malice. It was trying to win the ball. I mean, all the factors that go against a red card in that situation, and correctly given as just a free kick to Crystal Palace in a dangerous area here. Jeremy Pino will take. Right-footed, he's trying to go near post as it's headed behind by Tete for the corner. Well, as I said, Fulham had their chances at one end. Now it's right up the other end with Crystal Palace for a couple of successive set pieces. Corner on the left-hand side. Whipped in around the front post, cleared away by Wilson, and the first man all the way back with Mitchell, and now Henderson. Well dealt with there by Fulham. Not the best of corners by Pino, but well dealt with as Richards tries to make a little bit of a tricky one there, but well dealt with by Sander Berger. Right for the throw-in. Fairly good battle so far in the first 13.5 minutes. Very little between these two teams, both trying to throw some punches. None of them have quite landed just yet. As Chris Richards will take this throw in for Palace. I think he's going to go for the long one here. It's a long way out if he's going to get this into the box. It's a great distance on it. The wind might help him. Richards flings it into the area. A crowd of players as Wharton tries to keep it alive. And Nketiah tries to make it difficult. It's half cleared. Wilson will track it out to the right-hand side, trying to deny a corner. And he does just that, puts it out for a throw-in. I think Nketiah tried to get himself in an acrobatic position to take the overhead kick, but dealt with again by Fulham. Just about, though. No, Fulham have won none of their last 6 Premier League home games against Crystal Palace since a 3-1 victory in January of 2005. Almost 21 years ago. Richards with another long throw. Up and headed away. Jimenez in there, and Smith Rowe now gets the better of his man and Wharton. There could be a break on here for Fulham. Number of bodies flooding forward. As here's Chukwueze. Got options out wide. Chukwueze tries to go central. And there's no one through the middle there. It's just eased back to Dean Henderson in the Palace goal. A dangerous chance of a breakaway that completely falls away in a split second. They've drawn 3 and lost 3 of their last 6 Premier League home games against Crystal Palace of Fulham. Richards going for the long switch. Beautifully taken in by Mitchell. Left a little for Tete, but did well to find Gurhey. More Gurhey. Now Camera. Gurhey again. Gonna go direct. Blocked by Bassi. And now Jimenez trying to help the flick on with Harry Wilson, but again, a little bit inaccurate in that one. Decent affair so far. Set pieces have certainly taken centre stage in the first 16 minutes. Pino, lovely little feint ball in behind. Mateta, simple enough gather for Burn Leno. Again, nice move between the lines. It starts with Gurhey onto Camera, then through to Pino, and then finding the ball through to Mateta. Really nice direct play right up the middle and trying to create some angles, and Mateta's shot tame right at Burn Leno. But first real glimpse of Palace going from back to front this afternoon. Doesn't feel right saying afternoon when the sun's going down and the floodlights, the only light inside the stadium. A real cosy winter evening. Certainly indoors it's cosy, outdoors it's quite chilly. I feel like it should be evening rather than afternoon at this point. More fitting. Here's Anderson. Bassi. Back to Joachim Anderson. Palace sitting deep in their shape. 5-4-1 out of possession. The lone striker in Mateta is trying to confine the spaces, not give Fulham much room to manoeuvre in between the lines. Make them work for it. Here's Anderson again. Bassi. A bit of room, but can he find the right pass? Force it through the middle to Jimenez, who's dropping deeper. Finds it to Smith Rowe. A little bit of a chink there in the armour of Palace, although a ball by Castagna. As well cut out by Maxence Lacroix. And out for the Fulham throw. So one thing about these two teams, they're not looking to try and recover possession and really overtake the game in a sense from those turnovers. Just trying to get rid of the ball just to reset themselves into shape. They're both trying to solidify their defensive performance first and foremost. And on that occasion, Jeremy Pino a little bit late on his man. It's going to be a free kick to Fulham down the right hand side. Timothy Castagna, the one that was fouled there. And so far Fulham have had 62% possession in the first 18.5 minutes. 2 shots, 4 corners, and an XG of 0.09. Palace is 0.04 from their only shot of the game for Crystal Palace. Wilson whips one in deep, but too close to Dean Henderson to cause any concern whatsoever. That's a comfortable gather for the Crystal Palace goalkeeper. Camera finds Nketiah. Back to Mark Gahey. Crystal Palace captain. Leader of this team is Maxence Lacroix. Fires through the middle. Nice link up with Pino. And now Wharton swings it out to the left hand side. Finds Mitchell. Mitchell with space and room. Not much passing lanes on for him as he cuts it back to Mark Gahey, who helps in the attack. Wharton finds Eddie Nketiah, who tucks it into the bottom right corner. Beautifully carved out, beautifully choreographed by Crystal Palace, and they take the lead with their first real chance of the game. And it's Eddie Nketiah who needs to put down a marker, and he is putting down a marker for Oliver Glasner's team. Again, so dynamic from back to front. They work it wide. They don't really have many options on, but they have that extra man in Mark Gahey. Said helping out in the attack. We see it here. Mitchell, he's got no one on. He's not going to put the cross in. He's well blocked. But Gahey just steps up, creeps up a few yards, helps to create that little bit of an overload. Finds it to Wharton. Wharton first time into Nketiah. And he's got all the space and time in the world that he would need. The touch is beautiful. And the finish rifled into the bottom right corner. Straight as you like. Arrowed into the corner. Beautifully done by Nketiah. And beautifully created by Crystal Palace. Fulham 0, Crystal Palace 1. And you got to say, that was perfection from Crystal Palace in attack. That's his first of the season for Eddie Nketiah. My goodness, it was a nice one. And there we go. Seemingly Fulham's recent record against their city rivals are coming to roost again early in this one. But a very, very, very long way to go. That's the feeling that has been emerging. Fulham haven't really been able to get forward too much in the last 5 minutes or so. Palace having a little bit more joy on that front. Although here comes a response from Raul Jimenez with a shot. Skied well over the crossbar. Well, one thing about Fulham, they do know a way back into football matches. We've seen that in midweek. We've seen that across the season. 5 points they've gained from losing positions this season. That's a third of their points that they've tallied up has come from games of which they were losing at one point or another. So they'll not panic too early. I mean, even if they go 2-0 down or 3-0 down, they'll not panic because they were 4 goals down against Man City 3 days ago. And they almost came back and got something out of the game. So, if that was Fulham, I wouldn't be panicking. For Crystal Palace, they certainly wouldn't be getting too comfortable. They're not the most frivolous when they go in front. They've dropped 8 points from winning positions this season, Crystal Palace. That is around about a third of their points that they've tallied up. They could have had a third more if they did pick up all of those points, by the way. As it stands, they would be top of the league if they'd held on to every game of which they were winning, because they would be on 34 points, which would be a point ahead of Arsenal. It shows you swings and roundabouts in Premier League football. That's a crazy stat, by the way. It's battling down that right-hand side was Tete to win a throw-in. As I said, as it stands, Crystal Palace will jump up to 4th in the table, leapfrogging Everton and Chelsea. Up to 4th and 26 points. It would mean there's just 4 points separating 4th and 12th. Oh, here's a chance for Smith Rowe. Good save by Henderson. That's a chance for Fulham. What a response from Fulham, you got to say. Beautiful ball in by Sander Berge. Fired into the path of Smith Rowe. Works his way between the defenders. Gets into a clean shooting position. Has a go with his left. Fired at Dean Henderson. He makes a very good save to keep Crystal Palace in front. It will be a Fulham corner. Already spoken literally a minute ago about the response. A Wolby's delivery. Deep. Too deep. And that's a real mood killer. After that great moment comes a big disappointment in the delivery from the set piece. See this goal again from Crystal Palace. I say, Wharton's ball out wide is fabulous, but everything after that, just well choreographed. We talked about Mark Guehi stepping up, creating that extra overload of a man, and a space being created. Everybody in the right positions. And that's a perfect finish by Eddie Nketiah. The man who's been waiting for his first goal of the season for 15 weeks. Finally, he's off the mark for this campaign. You got to say, we talk about key players in the build-up, but don't often get the praise. But Adam Wharton is a player who can create something out of nothing. That's why he's been hotly favoured to go, no disrespect to Crystal Palace, but to one of the top clubs. Your Arsenals, your Man Cities, your Liverpools, your Chelsea's, etc., etc. Upper echelons of European football, never mind just Premier League football. Adam Wharton, one of the key talents for the future. Certainly an England talent. Will be very important to the future of English football, certainly, and he was key in that moment in getting Crystal Palace forward in the build-up to that goal. Eddie Nketiah only scored 3 Premier League goals for Crystal Palace last season, a total of 7 goals in all competitions, including both cup competitions last season. Has just 2 in all comps this season, 1 in the league and 1 in the Conference League. And here come Fulham again. Wilson tried to lay it off, but Wharton was there to block it and clear it away of danger. Fulham maybe edging their way back into this one, trying to push for that equaliser. Here is Iwobi, deep in his own half. Again, an incredibly compacted midfield area. Here's Bassi, trying to create a jink in that, but he gets a return ball from Richards, who was stepping in there in the midfield of Palace. All over at Celtic Park, by the way, and the champion Celtic have lost at home by 2-1 to Hearts. The challengers beating the champions on their own patch. Now that's 2 defeats this season against Hearts for Celtic. But they do still have a chance to level with them with their game in hand. So they sit 3 points behind. That is all over as the new Celtic boss takes charge. And a defeat in game 1. Here come Fulham down the left-hand side. Smith Rowe. Much forward action. Cuts back to Samuel Chukwueze. Trying to work an angle, Chukwueze. Goes out wide, finding Castagna. Right-footed whip ball in. It's deep. It was a threatening one, and Mitchell had to get his head to it as Tete was sneaking round the back. Goes out for a Fulham throw down the right-hand side. Tete. Gives it back to Joachim Andersen. Lots of space to whip it in. Does go for the whip ball. Away by Richards. Only as far as Chukwueze on that left channel. Up against Klein. Chukwueze fires back in. Bouncing around. Falls for Iwobi, who hits it straight down the throat of Dean Henderson. It took him 1 or 2 touches. And he got the shot off. Fairly central. Right down the throat of the goalkeeper. But again, another Fulham delivery that Crystal Palace get a little bit scrambly with. They just couldn't clear it away, and there'll be a cause for concern for Oliver Glasner that this team haven't looked convincing at clearing from their own 18-yard box at times today. That will be a slight worry as the ball in behind here. Beautifully worked by Wilson. Can he get the angle? He can't. Although Lacroix couldn't keep that one from going behind for the corner. Fulham have come back to life all of a sudden again. A long ball by Anderson. Run off the right flank by Wilson. Chests it down past Gerhi, and then it's Mitchell, that just takes the heavy touch, puts it behind for the corner. But Palace a little bit fragile at the back at the minute. And Harry Wilson trying to take advantage as he's the one over this corner, along with Iwobi again. It's corner number 6 or 7 for Fulham. And no, I didn't mean that. Corner delivered in. Oh, just away by Henderson, and it's going to be a free kick to Crystal Palace. I thought we were getting another corner there, Fulham, but Henderson fouled as that ball was delivered in, so it is a free kick. Yeah, Sanderberger had a hold of him. Yeah, it's definitely a foul. That was corner number 6, by the way, for Fulham. As I said, no, I did not mean the 6-7 reference. Long kick by Henderson. Header won by Joachim Andersen. Battling again. Lost this time down Nketiah. The ball bounces around. Klein tries to help out attacking wise as thumped away by Kenny Tete. Trying to help out as Richards gets a little bit loose. Hampers possession back to Fulham. Very good tempo game this. Half an hour gone. Fulham 0, Crystal Palace 1. Eddie Nketiah's first goal of the season. As Crystal Palace in front, but Fulham, since that Palace goal, have fought back well, pushing quite a lot for this equaliser. Feint the ball in behind. Smith Rowe's on the run again. That one evaded him. Finding the hands of Dean Henderson, but certainly trying those longer forward balls are Fulham, and as we're just seeing a little challenge there by Joachim Andersen on Klein, but completely fair. There's not much in that, if I'm honest. They're trying to bypass the midfield at times, Fulham. The defenders trying to work those balls in behind for the runners. And there's no shortage of runners for this Fulham team. Here's Anderson. Step into midfield. Out wide it goes to Tete. Chops back inside, looking for options. Has to square it back across to Bassi. Again, very congested midfield area. He's leaving it up to the centre-backs and the wide players to make something happen. Iwobi gets a little caught in possession and out-muscled by Mitchell. And Mateta, I think he was offside anyway, but the through ball was well overhit. Bernd Leno was there to mop it up, but game hanging in the balance at the minute. Not much again in between them. Will come down to key moments, will come down to individual quality to decide which way this game will go. Both teams are very well matched. Palace have had their first real clean punch of the afternoon, but there's many rounds to go yet for the final ding of the bell. Tete down the right hand side, trying to hold off Mitchell, does well, works it back to Anderson, who fires it through the middle, finding Iwobi. Iwobi trying to work a little bit of space, edge of the right hand side of the box. Tete back to Wilson. Wilson works it to Bassi. Bassi on the left hand side, finding Castagna, whips it in first time, away by Kamada. Again, Fulham on the offensive again. Palace sitting a little deeper, almost by necessary conventions, because Fulham are pushing them back into their own final third once more. Here's Wilson. Back to Tete, and again back to Anderson as Palace now try and press out, get themselves a little further up the field and force Fulham back a little bit. Here's Smith Rowe. Well, Crystal Palace won this exact fixture 2-0 in February of this year, ending a 6-game winless run against Fulham in the Premier League. Home and away, they drawn 4 and lost 2 of those previous 6 until the 2-0 win back in February. Already halfway to that result after 33 minutes here. Actually, 2-0 scoreline for the away team was the scoreline in both fixtures between these two. Fulham won 2-0 at Sellers Park, and oh, here's a chance for Crystal Palace. It's Nathaniel Klein in the box. Got a shot off, but blocked by 1 or 2 Fulham defenders. And then in the end, Wilson wins a free kick, but that came out of nothing, really. Just one ball across the box that probably should have been dealt with. It's Mateta just fires one in, or is it Mateta? I think it might have been Pino, actually. Just fired into the box and should be easily dealt with by Fulham, and they make a real muddle of it. Nathaniel Klein somehow gets into a shooting position, has a shot with his left, and Bassi getting his body on the line to block it, but that was something that came out of nothing for Crystal Palace, as Klein couldn't keep that one in play. You gotta say though, a little bit of a worry again for Fulham. Yeah, as I was saying, Fulham won 2-0 at Sellers Park and Palace won 2-0 here at Craven Cottage last season. They also met in the FA Cup in March. Palace won by 3-0 in that one as well. So certainly Palace have had their way with Fulham over the last 2 games. 5 goals scored, none conceded. 2 pretty comfortable victories. And in terms of the previous meetings between these two, in all competitions they've played 21 times previously. Fulham have won 8, Palace have won 6, and they've drawn 7. So there's a fairly well matched mix up between these two, and 3 different results, all fairly similar. There are 21 previous fights, shall we say. And Ketia there tries to get past Bassi, wanted the foul. Bassey goes down as well in the process, but the referee's just going to say nothing there, and Bassey is the one that maybe come off the worst of the two players. There's a man who knows Crystal Palace well, Simon Jordan, former chairman. And there's Steve Parish, who took over from Simon Jordan as the Palace chairman in 2010. Iwobi. Anderson back to Alex Iwobi. 8.5 minutes of the first 45 to go. Palace have the narrow advantage as Pino here trying to flick it on for Nketiah again. Fulham seem a little caught out there again as Mateta trying to find Nketiah. Well stopped by Anderson, and now Wilson. Berger taking on Wharton. Has to go down the left hand side this time to Castagna. Goes direct into Smith Rowe's path. Taken in by Berger and seen out by Wharton out for the Fulham throw. Real tussle between these two teams at the minute. In terms of the duels, Fulham have been much better in their battle. 72% of the duels Fulham have won in this first half. 69% on the ground, 78% in the air in Fulham's favour in terms of those duels. Here's Chukwueze. Was given a little bit of a glimpse there of the goal, but not for too long. He works it back to Berger. Now Iwobi. Out wide it goes to Tete on the right flank. Back it comes to Iwobi. Fired into Wilson. Jimenez back to Wilson! And that's a wonderful goal. A team goal if you've ever seen it. And Fulham are back on level terms. Harry Wilson, magician with the ball at his feet. And he made that one look like magic. Incredible from Harry Wilson. And that was all team goal from Fulham. But wonderfully finished off by Harry Wilson, making Dean Henderson have absolutely no chance. You gotta say, again, it's work back out wide from Tete. I think he's going to try and take on his man. He cuts it back to Iwobi. Forced into the path of Wilson. Little back heel to Jimenez, then back to Wilson, who hits it first time with his left. That is a lovely little finish over Dean Henderson, who had almost no chance of getting anywhere near that one. That is pure class from Harry Wilson. Wonderfully carved out goal. And it is back level again. Fulham 1, Crystal Palace 1. And he's been the standout performer for Fulham this season. Well, that was a standout goal from Harry Wilson in this first half. 1-1. And that is one of the best finishes we've seen this weekend. No doubt about it. And we've seen some great goals. That one cut above the rest, surely. I mean, it's just how intricate, how perfect it had to be, how accurate it had to be for it to even have half a chance at working. But as I say, the finish is all down to that man, Harry Wilson. Sheer quality. Even the best of magicians would be happy to see that sort of magic. Get him into the magic circle. Last 5 minutes of the first half coming in. A very entertaining first half so far between these two. Right the way through, they've had their spells, they've had their little moments. And both sides have had their really well carved out goals. It's just been really high quality as Gehi switches it out to the right hand side for Klein. Wharton back to Richards, into Kamada. Now out wide to Richards, who will give it back to Maxence Lacroix. And Palace will build from the back again. Mateta in between the lines, finds Mitchell. Mitchell finding the space to find Kamada. Finding it out wide to Chris Richards on the right-hand side. Down the channel is Klein. Inside to Nketiah, trying to work it into the box, but mapped by the man mountain of Calvin Bassey, who again gets in the way. And is not going to shade that one out for a goal kick. He's going to have those baggy shorts again, and he does well to break away as Berger tries to thread it through down that left side for Smith Rowe, but just about cut out by Richards. Again, they're trying things. The confidence is up. The energy's up inside Craven Cottage. We've got a very finely poised game on our hands. Here's Daichi Kamada. Trying to feed it round the outside. Nicely through ball from Mitchell, who tried to get the cross low, but Kenny Tete was in his way. He stopped it in its tracks. The ball bounces down for Iwobi in a tight space, trying to hang on to it. Does really well, just can't poke it through to Emil Smith Rowe, but the crowd really loving their team's intent at the moment. This home crowd. Harry Wilson for his team. Fulham's top goal scorer, their player with the most shots, the most shots on target, the most touches in the opposition box, and the second most passes into the opposition box. He is an incredible creative force for this Fulham team, integral to the way that they attack and the way that they play, and he makes himself ever more integral as every passing game. He started really off as a late winner for Fulham, a super sub off the bench that would always come on and give something, and now he's doing it for a full 90 minutes, producing at such a high level for Fulham, and a team that really needs a talisman at the minute. I think their number 8 is said talisman. It's Joachim Andersen. Back it goes to Bern Leno in the Fulham goal. Well, Fulham have altered between defeat and victory in the last 5 home London derbies in the Premier League, losing 1-0 to Arsenal last time out. So on the basis of that back and forward home and win and lose at home in London derbies, they should be on course for a win this evening, but a long way to go on that sort of trajectory. Gahey and Wilson get all up in each other's business. Fulham get the free kick. Last 90 seconds of the first 45 of this first half, and a reminder that we do have one more game to bring you this Premier League weekend on LFS. Wolves taking on Manchester United. That's tomorrow 8 o'clock here in LFS to round off match day 15. Rock bottom Wolves and Man United needing a bit of a mood booster themselves after dropping points at home to West Ham on Thursday night. We'll see how they fare at Molineux tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Here's Smith Rowe. Berger. Iwobi. Little backheel by Chukwueze, not quite finding Smith Rowe on that occasion as Kamada parades away from his man. He slips over there. He does well to work it back into the midfield. And now Richards. Down the right hand side comes Klein. Last minute of the first half. We'll see how long will be added on, maybe a minute or two. Not be many stoppages in this first half, I gotta say. As Jimenez goes back to Kenny Tete. CPFC Plumber says, hello mate, I'm watching you for the first time. I tried that side channel but not for me. My first no working, so I have no choice. Thank you very much for joining us, really appreciate it. Anybody who's joined us for the first time or for however many times you've been watching us, it's great to have you with us for this one. A very enjoyable game, I gotta say, so far as the neutral. I'm quite enjoying this one. 2 additional minutes by the way at the end of this first half. As about 2 committed that time. Harry Wilson gives away a free kick. Jeremy Pino brought down in his own half. Well, in a season where we've had very few draws in the Premier League, this could be our 4th draw of the weekend in 9 games. Bournemouth, Chelsea, Liverpool, Leeds and Brighton, West Ham are the 3 other games that ended in a draw this weekend. The Premier League certainly tightening up. And as I said earlier, as it stands, there are just 3 points that separate 4th place Chelsea and 12th place Manchester United. It is incredibly compact in the middle of the field. Anybody, one can beat anybody really. That's what we've established this Premier League season, is that anybody can beat anybody. But also that if you do beat anyone around you, you could move up 6, 7, 8, 9 places in the table. It's crazy how much movement you can get. How tightly packed it is. That's why Christmas and this spell of quite a few games in quick succession is so important. If you can get on a good run, if you can pick up a good number of points, you can skyrocket yourself up the table. Bassey trying to ping it out wide to Wilson. Blocked. Brought down by Wharton as he tries to get Palace on the move. With Mateta trying to fire it into Nketiah, who's on the run. He's got Bassey for company, but Nketiah's there on his own. And Crystal Palace senses Bassey gets physical and sends Eddie Nketiah to the ground. And Caoimhan Bassey, all on his own there, got his team out of trouble. And that's the last action of the first half. Completely out-muscling Eddie Nketiah. And as I said, the half-time whistle's just gone. On the end of a fairly tightly packed first half. Both teams had their spells in this first half to really dominate the other. Certainly a lot more on set pieces, but 2 beautifully choreographed and carved out goals from Eddie Nketiah with his first of the season and Harry Wilson with his 4th of the season. Half time at Craven Cottage on the banks of the River Thames. It's Fulham 1, Crystal Palace 1. In the flick on header is into the back of the net. And it's Alexis McAllister again. Back post. Oh, it's gone in. Little flick, an overhead kick, and it's gone in. And Sunderland through Brian Brobbey might have just got a point here. There's another go. Oh, fabulous from Rashford. Absolutely tearing it up. Oh, he's done it. Oh, what a finish. Can you believe it? Arsenal had the set-piece proficiency coming into it, but that is an unbelievable goal from Dominic Szoboszlai. Here's a chance one-on-one. Round the goalkeeper. It's 2-1. Brighton have turned it around. He's at the crossbar. Manchester United are out. Grimsby Town have one of the most unbelievable cup upsets in the Carabao Cup history. Welcome back to Premier League Live. Half-time at Craven Cottage. It is 1-1 between Fulham and Crystal Palace. A very closely fought first half of this game, and a pretty enjoyable first half. I gotta say, both sides, as I said, both have had chances, both have had their opportunities, and both have created one really positive chance that has ended up into the back of their opponent's net. And I gotta say, it all started really with Crystal Palace and this wonderfully carved out move by Adam Wharton with a beautiful switch ball out to Tyreek Mitchell. Mitchell, in the end, finding the ball all the way to Eddie Nketiah, through Gerhi, through Wharton, and beautifully fed into Nketiah, who took it so nicely, struck it with his right foot into the bottom right corner, arrowed into that corner. Wonderful goal. You wouldn't think it's his first of the season. It looked like he's been doing this every weekend of the season so far. It was so cleanly taken and so beautifully worked by Crystal Palace. And that is what Premier League football is all about. Wonderful team goal. A beautiful little finish by the Nketiah. It's so nice. And then Fulham's response is a great goal of their own, really. Again, it's worked back to Alex Iwobi. Feeds it out wide to Kenny Tete. You think he's going to go wide, I think he's going to go down the line, try and find something across. Now he works it back to Iwobi, who spots a chink in the Palace defence, finding Wilson, and that, the rest is history. Nice little back heel, back to Raul Jimenez, then to Wilson, who on his left, dinks it into the far corner past Dean Henderson with his first touch. Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous from Harry Wilson. And I gotta say, both goals top class quality, top class goals, and beautifully carved out by really nice team moves. And I think that's what's making this game so entertaining and so enjoyable as a neutral, in the fact that it comes down to not just great individual moments or set pieces or a penalty or a counter-attacking goal, just two really well worked team goals from midfield back to front, being patient, waiting for the right moments, and then when there's a little bit of a space, when there's a little bit of a gap, just absolutely unleashing all sorts of quality. And both goals just top tier, and we're being treated to some great action so far in this first half, and open definitely, fingers crossed, for more of the same in the second half. Sean says, had Wilson, Jimenez and Smith Rowe to score £5, but to take 2,100 back. Fingers crossed indeed for you, Sean. Wish you luck with that. Well, Wilson's got one, and it was a very good goal, and I'm sure that the players that had him in their fantasy team are quite enjoying it. But one thing I did notice from the first half, so we look at all the stats, and some people don't even go too deep into the stats because I think they're pretty useless, but I think there's something really interesting in the stats. Fulham have had 66% possession in that first half. Palace have had half the shots that Fulham have had, 6-3 in the home side's favour. They've had more corners, 6-2. So all of that's well and good, and the shots on target and everything else. But I talk about duels, and we talk about one-on-one battles, we talk about 50-50 challenges, we talk about aerial and ground duels so often in games could really garner the momentum. And we talk about this because Fulham, quite unusually in a Premier League game, usually it's quite even between teams, or it's around about 55-45, or around about that is probably the widest the margin gets. Fulham are winning 2/3 of their duels at the minute, both aerial and ground. 67% of the duels Fulham have won, compared to Palace at 33%. So what that basically means is that out of the total 36 duels that they've had between Fulham and Crystal Palace, Fulham have won a total of 24 of those out of 36, which means they're dominant both on the ground and in the air in one-on-one battles with Crystal Palace. So it means they're out-muscling them, out-fighting them, making the game physical, and being successful at making the game physical. 73% of their aerial duels they won, and 64% of their ground duels. And their dribbles, a 71% success rate on dribbles as well. 5 out of 7 dribble attempts have been successful. And you may think, yeah, but all of that's just numbers. But we talk about just the fine margins of maybe keeping that possession a little longer, being patient, or a little bit of skill just to take you past a man and create a bit of space. It's all those little details that make the difference in a game. And that's why I think at times it's felt like in that first half that Fulham have had so much of the momentum, and maybe Crystal Palace took the lead a little bit against the run of play, in the fact that Fulham had probably been in control of the game for a lot of it without really taking much threat to Dean Henderson's goal until they scored. But they had a lot of that control in the build-up play and were patient with it, and in the end it does pay off with a beautiful bit of quality. But it's just something I noticed from that first half, that Fulham were so dominant, because it is very unusual in the Premier League to be so dominant in those sorts of areas, certainly. But if we look at the passing positions, 50% of the ball has been in the middle third, 23% in Fulham's final third, and 27% in Palace's final third. So that shows almost perfect balance between the three areas of the pitch as to where each team's threatening, and at the minute there's not much between them. And that's certainly what the scoreline shows at the moment. But in a weekend where it seems like there's not much between teams so far, albeit 3 results this weekend have ended by 2-goal margin or more. Everton, Man City and Spurs, but every other game has been either a 1-goal margin or a draw. And at the minute we're on course for our 4th draw of the weekend, our 2nd of the day, and at the minute there needs to be a bit of magic to separate these two teams, or a moment of pure class. We've already seen 2 magic moments from both teams in the first half. Will we see some more? We hope so, because the second half is on the way very shortly. Do stay with us. In the flick-on header is into the back of the net, and it's Alexis McAllister again. Back post. Oh, it's gone in. Little flick and an overhead kick, and it's gone in. And Sunderland through Brian Brobbey might have just got a point here. There's another go. Oh, fabulous from Rashford. Absolutely tearing it up. Oh, he's done it. Oh, what a finish! Can you believe it? Arsenal had the set-piece proficiency coming into it, but that is an unbelievable goal from Dominic Szoboszlai. Here's a chance one-on-one. Round the goalkeeper. It's 2-1. Brighton have turned it around. He's at the crossbar. Manchester United are out. Grimsby Town have one of the most unbelievable cup upsets in the Carabao Cup history. Welcome back to Premier League Live, and our penultimate game of this weekend in the Premier League. It's Fulham 1, Crystal Palace 1 at the break. And speaking of our final game of the weekend, it is tomorrow night at Molineux, as rock bottom of the table Wolverhampton Wanderers, who are without a win this season, the only team without a win this season in the Premier League, take on Manchester United, who faltered a chance to go into the top 5 against West Ham on Thursday night. Well, they'll have another chance to get up there with a win away at Wolves tomorrow. They would be jumping up around about Chelsea's position in the table, around about 5th, depending on what happens here this evening. But there's a big chance for Manchester United, and we'll see that one tomorrow at 8 o'clock on LFS. Right, almost ready for the second half. The players back out onto the field, and Eddie Nketiah and Harry Wilson's goals from that first half sees this one finally poised as we go into the second half. And don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on post notifications if you haven't done so already. We're hurtling towards 31,000 subscribers. If you could help us on that journey, then that would be greatly appreciated. And if you haven't liked the stream already, it's free, so why not? And if you're enjoying it, do hit that like button. It is greatly appreciated. Right, we're almost ready to go. At the minute, there's an interview with Oliver Glass now, the Crystal Palace manager. And again, his team seemingly dropping points from a winning position. We talked about that in the first half. They dropped 8 points from winning positions this season, Palace. Could be another 2 coming tonight, or maybe even worse. We'll see how they fare in the second half, though, against a Fulham side that had probably the momentum going into the break. Looks like there's no changes at half-time anyway, so the 22 that entered the tunnel into the dressing rooms at half-time will be the 22 that will re-emerge from the tunnels to endure this second half. Crystal Palace kicking from left to right, Fulham from right to left in this second half here at Craven Cottage. Almost ready to go. Keeping us waiting for this one is our referee Sam Barrett, as we get back underway then for this one tonight. Ketia trying to get the flick on early to get them into a good position as Mateta was in behind there, but didn't quite come off. Well, the last time these two drew was in April of 2024, and it was a 1-1 draw at Craven Cottage. Rodrigo Muniz scored for Fulham that day before Jeffrey Schlupp scored a late equaliser for Crystal Palace. There have been a number of draws between these two sides, certainly at Craven Cottage over the years. Actually, 2 of their last 3 here at Craven Cottage has ended in a draw, and a score draw at that. And 3 of the 4 meetings between the 3 of the 7 meetings between the sides at Craven Cottage over the years in the league have ended in a draw. 3 of those, by the way, an away win. Fulham have only beaten Palace here once in the Premier League, and that was all the way back in 2005 in their very first meeting at Craven Cottage in the Premier League. Here is Joachim Andersen in his own half, finding it to Bassi. Fulham just trying to rediscover that momentum that they had going into the break. And that's a nice long ball down the left. A header out by Klein wins Fulham a throw-in down this left channel, which Timothy Castagna takes. Gets it back to Bassi. Works it across to Castagna. Anderson. Now to Tete. Will be there in between the lines, playing an integral role at the minute. Alex Iwobi can play further forward, usually does play further forward, but seems to be sitting a little deeper today. A couple of yards deeper, as that's a nice take by Chukwueze. Bursts inside, but couldn't get past Adam Wharton, as that's nicely won back by Berger. That's applauded by the crowd. It's Anderson. Down the right hand side comes Wilson. Tries to work it outside, trying to find it to Tete, who's got the bout of his man, and Kenny Tete wanted to go for goal. Struck it off target, but one after another there from Kenny Tete. Harry Wilson's ball just about scrambling through to him. He just about gets there. He just about gets back onto the ball, and he just about gets his shot off. And it goes just about wide. All the just abouts. And so much talking about the right wing back position of Crystal Palace being a goal threat. Coming in this one, maybe Kenny Tete at right back of Fulham is an unwieldy goal threat. Who knows? Kamara. Bit of a head tennis between the two as Kamara heads it back to Mark Gahey. Steps into midfield, finds Kamara. A little bit of room ahead of him as he rolls it on to Pino, and in behind for Mateta, trying to roll it into the far corner, but he rolls it too far wide. A goal kick will come, but again that's Palace going right up the centre. Saw it a little bit in the first half, that one with The other shot that Mateta had was P-roller towards Bernd Leno. This one, a little bit more pace behind it, but just not as accurate. A little bit better and applauded by Oliver Glasner. His team's attempts there. And Tete goes back to Bernd Leno. Calvin Bassey. Patience from Fulham. Anderson. Tete. Anderson going for the switch ball. Trying to find Chukwueze. Put too much behind it. Right for the throw. And there's only 6 points separating these two coming into this one. 18 for Fulham, 24 for Palace. So a real 6-pointer. They've scored actually very similar amounts of goals. 19 for Fulham, 18 for Palace. And in terms of their conceded goals, very different. Fulham have conceded double the amount that Crystal Palace have this season, 22 compared to Palace's 11. That was coming into the game. Of course, it's 23 to 12 now, obviously, but the live scoreline. But certainly that, the more of a worry for Fulham than Palace, their defensive record. Albeit it's a bit skewed, the fact that 5 of those 22 goals they conceded were in one game 4 days ago. But they're a little bit leakier at the back, Fulham, than Crystal Palace. They've been fairly even on every other front, bar the goals conceded, and that's what's seen Fulham drop down the table and find themselves in the bottom half. And Palace right at the top, right round the top end of the table. Both sides have had some topsy-turvy form in the last few. Actually, Fulham have a better recent record than Palace, if you could believe it. Palace have won just 2 of their last 5. Fulham have won 3. And both sides have lost 2 of their last 5. And Palace drawing the other. A 0-0 draw with Brighton. But falling 2 defeats in their last few games. Back-to-back 2-1 defeats against Strasbourg in the Conference League. And then at Man United at home last Sunday. Here's Klein. Now Kamara steps onto his right foot, has a go at goal. Blocked by Sander Berge. Bassey seems a little bit too much to his man there, and I think it's going to be a foul, I suspect. You see it again, nice by Nketiah, feeds it inside to Klein. Klein across the Kamara. He tries to go for the shot. Just charged down by Sander Berge, a few yards in front of him. And then Bassey there. A little bit close with his man, but no foul was given, just a throw in actually to Fulham in their own half. Castagna works it out of a bit of tight trouble there. Here's Tete. Not much on for him further forward as he finds Berge. Back. Working it to Joachim Andersen. Fired forward first time to Smith Rowe. Nice hold up by Jimenez. Smith Rowe's breaking away from his man. Referee plays advantage. Out wide to Chukwueze. Whips it in deep. The header off the post. Followed up and in by Smith Rowe. And Fulham take the lead for the first time. And Emil Smith Rowe with a tap in from a rebound off the post. Fires Fulham in front. Samuel Chukwueze's cross met a Fulham head that crashed off the post, and the first man to react was Emil Smith Rowe, who knocks it into an empty net, and a nice little dance with Calvin Bassey to celebrate, and Fulham take the lead for the first time in this game. We see it here, the fireball. We talked about the midfielders just trying to, or the defenders trying to bypass the midfielder for them in that first half. It's just a long fired ball by Anderson right on to Smith Rowe. You think he's going to miscontrol it, but he does really well with the link up with Jimenez. Hold it up well. The referee does well to play advantage. And Smith Rowe just takes it on his own. Out wide it goes to Chukwueze. Whips it in beautifully. The header from Iwobi off the right post. And it rebounds back into the path of Emile Smith Rowe, who caresses it into an empty net beautifully. And that is, again, well carved by Fulham. But are they questioning a handball in the build-up? Or an offside in the build-up? Could be another thing. Let's wait and see. I think this might be ruled out. Unfortunately for Fulham and Craven Cottage, who will not be too pleased. And I think they will hear from the VAR decision that this will not count and an offside will be given. Samuel Chukwueze just a yard or so offside on that wide area, and that's why this is being disallowed. So Fulham thought they were taking the lead, but VAR, the spoiled sport again, and that goal is disallowed. But Fulham seemingly rediscovering that momentum of the first half. And Marco Silva shakes his head, but you can't argue with a factual decision. Samuel Chukwueze is offside. It was Klein, I think, who was playing him on, but the last man who was measured for the offside, and he is offside. No question about that. It's a harsh one, but it will give Fulham belief that they really can take it to Crystal Palace, because they've done it already. Here's Chukwueze. Taking around his man, still going as he fights for the ball down that left side and wins a throw-in out of Nathaniel Klein. Incredible hard work there from Chukwueze. We haven't really talked about Samuel Chukwueze so far, the 26-year-old from Nigeria. Actually contributed to a goal in each of his last 3 games for Fulham. 2 goals and 2 assists in his last 3 games. Assisted against Tottenham and assisted against Sunderland in that 1-0 win. And of course got the 2 goals against City, so certainly had a hot run of form in the last few weeks. Actually 5 goals and assists combined in his 7 Premier League appearances this season. So when he's on the field, he usually creates something. And certainly in recent weeks, he's created quite a few important moments for Fulham. Here's Calvin Bassey. Into the path of Jimenez, who makes it just about hang on, but Berger couldn't help him out in that crusade as Cameronai. Pino tried to flick it through for Mateta. A little bit clumsily there. Dispossessed again. Spell in the game that Crystal Palace just need to find a way out of. A little bit of a rut at the minute where Fulham are just being so confident and successful in their tussles with the Crystal Palace players. It's a real slog for the visitors at the minute. And the second ball on the pitch here as they duly get rid of it does Chukwueze. Castagna. Wilson. Works it back in field to Bassey. Right down the left comes Castagna. Not finding his target there in Chukwueze as it's loose, but Anderson does well to see off Mateta. Now Wilson. Iwobi looking for runners, finds Harry Wilson. Well marshalled by Wharton, but Berger keeps it, finds it to Chukwueze. Now Castagna. Good passing from Fulham, good tempo in the game. Chukwueze. Flick ball by Berger. Cleared away by Richards, but only as far as Bassey. Momentum swinging in Fulham's favour again. It's Tete down the right. Wins a throw in. Just about keeping this attack alive, but the crowd very recipient. I don't know what the right tense of that word is, but they're loving this. That's a nice way of putting it. They're enjoying what their side are trying to do. Here's Bassey. Wanted to go for goal there. They'll enjoy that from 45 yards out. Anderson has to throw his body on the line. It puts Fulham under unnecessary pressure. To Mateta. Pino. Bassi trying to get himself in the mix and does really well to win it back. And now here comes Iwobi. Breakaway for Fulham. So it comes down the right channel. Finds Jimenez. Raul Jimenez, who maybe pulls up a little bit there. And goes behind for a goal kick. But that's scrappy between the two teams there for a second or so. At times this game has been quite like that, but that's the fairness of a really close game and the fact that there is very little between these two, and it will come down to those little scrappy moments at times. It will be very close. A lot of turnovers in possession, etc., etc. It's about who deals with those moments the best and who finds the right passes, the right opportunities, and creates the right goal-mouth action to try and win this game of football. Crystal Palace have one of the best away records in the Premier League this season. 4 wins, 1 draw and 2 defeats from their 7 away games. If they draw this one, they will be joint most points picked up away from home. And funnily enough, the 4 teams with that would be, the 3 teams as it stands without this game, the 3 teams that are top of those away charts are all London-based teams. Chelsea, Spurs and Arsenal of all the most points on the road this season, 14 points from their away games. Palace would be alongside that. If they were to draw this, they would be the best away from home if they were to win this game. That's as it stands, of course. In terms of Fulham's home record, 4 wins, a draw and 2 defeats from their 7 home games this season. Quite a few teams have a better home record than that. They're around about mid-table in terms of their home form, Fulham, this season, but 9 goals conceded, and considering the fact that 5 of those 9 goals were conceded at midweek, that's not a bad record of 4 goals in 6 games conceded at home. Sorry, 3 goals in 6 games. We're including the goal they've conceded in this one. Quite remarkable that Fulham conceded 2 more goals in 1 game on Wednesday night at home than they did in their previous 6 at home all season. So that's a switch ball out to Klein that couldn't be kept in play. Nice. Fulham back onto the ball. 61 minutes gone. Fulham 1, Crystal Palace 1. Neither side have went to the bench just yet. Fulham had the ball in the back of the net for a second time after a VAR review, disallowed for an offside in the build-up. It remains all square. Anderson, trying to work it out wide to Castagna, but well cut out by Klein. Now Nketiah finding Wharton, who tries to return the favour to Nketiah, but Bassi again there, stalwart to clear it away and find Castagna down the channel. Inside to Berger. Now Iwobi. Skipping away from his man there in Yeremy Pino, who was on the floor as he tried to challenge for the ball. Wilson. Nice little 1-2 with Tete, who wins the throw in once more off Gahey. Gotta say, Fulham, in my opinion, have been the better team, but anything can still happen. Palace arguably scored against a run of play in the first half to take the lead. There's nothing saying that they can't do it for another time. Fulham seemingly in control of this game at the minute, in every other stat but the scoreline. And that's why Crystal Palace are going to look to their bench in a few minutes. We'll tell you about that when the changes are being made. But it looks like a double change. Oliver Glasner's eyeing up, because they're a little bit sloppy in possession at times now. Here's Chukwueze skipping his way through, brought down, no foul, so the referee said a fair challenge. Here's Mateta, surrounded by white shirts, finds a way out though to find Pino. He's got the overlap of Mitchell. Here is Tyreek Mitchell. He's got Nketiah in the box as well as Pino, and Mateta arriving, but Mitchell cannot shake off Joachim Andersen. He works it back to Kamara. Now Wharton takes it in his stride, has a shot. Blocked by Tete. Fulham work out of that Again, defensive situation without much trouble having been done as Richards gets physical to win it back again. Camera held up by Mateta, swung out wide to the left hand side for Mitchell. Fires it across, Pino gets a nice slice of luck. And it's, cleared away. Well, the keeper had something to that, but he didn't. Now Mitchell has it. Well, Palace now. Here's Wharton. Quickly this game can change. Fulham in relative control, and then Palace comes springing up the other end with a couple of back-to-back chances. Here's Mitchell, blocked by Tete. And Tete fouled by Mitchell. Free kick to Fulham. I have to say, my fantasy team, it didn't do awfully. Again, I kept Phil Foden as my captain for this weekend, and I really enjoyed that. He made up more than half of my points this weekend, another 24 from Phil Foden. A real great player to have in your fantasy team at the minute. But not much joy elsewhere, really. A couple of 5-pointers, but nothing. And I put Munoz in it. I didn't know he was injured, didn't know he wasn't going to play. And yeah, that quite a little bit of a ruiner, but, you know, not complaining with 47 points. It's not the worst. It's also not the best. Average weekend. Right, Crystal Palace are the first of the two teams to go to their subs bench and make a double change. And I've just missed who's come on, so I'll tell you in a minute when I have further information. But they have made changes, Crystal Palace. So we have the final 25 minutes of this one at Craven Cottage. 1-1. Palace took the lead through Nketiah. Fulham equalised through Harry Wilson. Fulham thought they'd taken the lead through Smith Rowe. That was disallowed. And the game ebbing and flowing. Speaking of Nketiah, he's one of the changes. Mateta alongside him. And Jefferson Lerma and Christantus Uche is on as well. So Lerma and Uche on for Nketiah and Mateta for Crystal Palace. It looks like Fulham are going to react to those Palace changes, and Kevin looks like he's getting himself ready on the Fulham bench. Some more movement there. Here is Richards. Oh, a little bit loose in the midfield there from Pino. Giving it away to Fulham. Here's Berger. Down the left-hand side for Castagna. Fired it into the box, bypassed the man. Here's finds Chukwueze, fires it across. And arriving was Jimenez, but not in the right moments. And it's fizzed all the way through and out the other end. But great from Castagna, chipping it to Chukwueze, who beats past his man and absolutely rifles one across the 6-yard box. And Raul Jimenez was arriving, but not in sync, those two. Otherwise, that would have been 2-1 Fulham. And the man who thought he put Fulham ahead is going to be replaced here by Kevin, the young Brazilian. And Fulham make their first change of the game. 22-year-old Kevin, who is yet to score or assist in the Premier League this season. He has got a goal in the Conference League, but that was, of course, for Shakhtar Donetsk. And he got an assist in the EFL Cup for Fulham this season, but he has yet to register a Fulham goal. Mitchell down the left-hand side for Palace. They want to try and take the lead. Oh, and it's just gone wide from Uche. Great ball in by Mitchell. Uche on the end of it, and it just sneaks wide of that right post. Again, it all starts with Wharton finding Camara. Camara works it out wide to Mitchell, breaking down that left side, and he swings it in low and hard into the 6-yard edge of the 6-yard area, and it's Uche that gets something to it. It might have took a deflection on the way through, but in the end it goes sneaking wide of that right post and ever so close for Crystal Palace. Both teams coming close. The game's hotting up as we enter the final 22 minutes or so. of this one. Is there a winner on the cards? Usually there is between these two. The home team in this fixture hasn't won this fixture since 2019. The last 8 meetings between the two sides has either seen a draw or an away win. Palace were the last team to win at home in this fixture, and that was in February of 2019 when they won 2-0. The last home team to win with both teams scoring was Fulham in that 3-1 win back in January of 2005. That's the only time a home team has won when both teams have scored in this Premier League fixture. Here's Kevin. Whips it in. Up and away by Lerma. He's not long on the field. Really trying to have his impact. Certainly defensively for Palace. How will this one shake out after all is said and done? After 69 minutes and 45 seconds, 9 shots each, 3 shots on target each. Similar in the touches in the opposition box, 18-15 in Fulham's favour, and Fulham very dominant in possession-wise, 65-35 in Fulham's favour. So that is not even at all, but the shots and on-target shots are very even. That's what matters. Who can be more clinical with their opportunities? Here's Lerma. Down the left comes Kamara. Steps inside, back to Lerma. Wharton. Across to Richards. Back to Wharton. Now back to Richards. Bit of table tennis between those two. That's a ball attempted through the lines there by Palace, but not quite finding their targets. Well, this is a stat for Palace. The last time they drew a game on the road was back in late August in the qualification playoff places in the Europa Conference League when they drew 0-0 at Fredrikstad. Of course, they were going through if they kept the draw in that game. Their last league draw was their first away league game of the season, a 0-0 draw away at Chelsea. And that was the only time in the league that they've drawn away from home this season. They've either won or lost in every other away league game this campaign. More often won than lost. There are only 2 away losses this campaign for Palace away from home, as Everton and Arsenal. And they were back-to-back in October. For Fulham, in terms of their home form, they don't often see a home draw, and their last home draw was on the opening weekend of this. Their opening home game of the season at home to Manchester United when they drew 1-1. Here's Wilson in behind. The flag was up anyway against Jimenez. As I said there, Fulham only one home draw this season, and that was Man United in late August. They've either won or lost each of their last 8 at home. 6 of those they've won, 2 of them they've lost. Arsenal and Manchester City. Their only home defeats in this run this season. That's not too shabby for Fulham. That's actually really, really good. Something has to give here between these two. Lerma. Back it goes to Richards. Down the right hand side is Klein. Down the line to Pino. Tries to work it back in field to Wharton, who has to bounce it off a man, but loses possession in the process as Kevin tries to fire Fulham forward, but that ball bypassing everyone in all white. Very, very, very finely poised. Doesn't mean there's not going to be a late winner. One chance it takes as Pino coming back from an offside position. Uche wants to still go for goal himself. He's still going about 10 seconds after the flag went up. And Uche slaps the floor, but Pino was offside coming back from an offside position to receive the ball, which is correct call by the linesman there. Tight call, but it looks like the correct one. Bassey. Will be a little bit loose in possession. Pino nips it away, but Joachim Andersen there to mop up the problems. Fulham can't get out there as Palace have it in the middle. Lerma. Kamada lets it go, but nicely retrieved by Chuck Wasey, who was tracking back there for Fulham. Well, we talk about sub benches now. They're so important, certainly for these two teams, but certainly for Fulham, because only since the start of last season, only Brighton with 23 have had more goals scored via substitutes in the league than Fulham with 21. That doesn't include own goals, by the way, in that. And Samuel Chukwueze has netted twice on the bench, of course, against City last time out. So they do love a bench goal scorer, do Fulham. A little super sub. Are they going to have one tonight? Their only sub so far is Kevin. He's yet to get off the mark. In Fulham colours, remember. As we enter the final 15 minutes, is there going to be some more movement from both benches? Try and give them the edge. There is, and it's going to be Fulham first. They're going to make some changes. So they're going to see Sander Berge coming off. Josh King's coming on. And Sasa Lukic is coming on with Samuel Chukwueze coming off. So Berge and Chukwueze off. Lukic and King on. Some fresh legs from the Fulham bench in midfield and an attack. Try and take the game to Crystal Palace for the final quarter of an hour or more. And Palace going to make a change of their own. Going to bring on JD Canvat. The 19-year-old Frenchman. Or is it Canvo? Might be Canvo. And Nathaniel Klein's going to make way. Yeah, JD Canvo is coming on for Nathaniel Klein. No Daniel Munoz, so Klein had to deputise and has put in a real good shift of 76 minutes. And replaced by the 19-year-old JD Canvo for Crystal Palace. Palace on the attack here. Throw in down the left-hand side, which Chris Richards is over to take. One of those long throws. Just about gets its way into the box. Uche tries to set up something, but Kevin there to snatch on the heavy touch and clear it away. Oh, and an awkward ball back there to Dean Henderson by Canvo, and luckily Dean Henderson was alert. Didn't cause too much danger in the end. That's one thing we hope. If there is to be a winner in this game, let's hope it's by pure quality and class and just pure ability rather than a mistake or a bad moment for one player or another. We want a quality winner if we can get one. I mean, we're not asking for much, are we? Here's Kamada. Down the right hand side to Canvo. And I go with the 1-2 with Pino, and Canvo does battle well with Castagna, but it's going to be a goal kick to Fulham. Let's talk about what's coming up for these two teams around Christmas to the end of the calendar year. Fulham head to Burnley next Saturday evening at 5:30. Then have a Carabao Cup tie in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup away at Newcastle in the midweek after, before their final game before Christmas, home to Nottingham Forest. And then a trip to West Ham to round out 2025. Crystal Palace a little busier on that front. It's a very congested period to the end of the year. We'll tell you about that in a moment, because here's Kevin. Can't get past Cambo. Well blocked behind for a goal kick. Well, Palace back in action on Thursday nights. Coming, they head to Shelbourne in Ireland. They then host Manchester City next Sunday. Then back in Conference League action again when Coops come to Sellers Park for their final their final league phase game in the Conference League before Christmas. Then they host head to Leeds, then head to Arsenal in the Carabao Cup just 2 days before Christmas, and then rounding out the year, the London Derby at home to Spurs on the 28th of December. So a very congested end of the year for Palace. A number of competitions in the mix there. Both sides have League Cup quarter-finals before the festive season comes to a close. Iwobi fired into the path of King, who just gets beaten to a pawn by Jefferson Lerma, but Fulham recover through Anderson, who undercooks it towards King, but again helping hand there with Tete down that side, and King feeds it into Wilson's path. Back to Tete. Anderson firing it out to the left channel, beautifully taken in by Castagna. Chops back, but was caught on the way through, he says, by Canvo, but referee says no foul, and then Wharton was penalised, or is hauled back, and Fulham are penalised. Free kick to Crystal Palace. The referee going to check upon Timothy Castagna after he felt that he was fouled here. He chests this ball down, just gets away from him, and then Campbell on the cover. He does slightly clip the toe of Castagna. It's a painful one, but I don't think there's much in it. It's accidental. And then Josh King just kind of throws himself at Adam Wharton there, and the referee rightfully giving a foul for that. Marco Silva not too happy with that decision, but I think it's correct, in my opinion. Well, into the last 10 at the Cottage. There's an offside flag goes up there against Uche. So free kick to Fulham. Game's got a little bit disjointed in the last 10-15 minutes. Not been much attack in action. Neither side have really sustained possession for too long. Neither side have really imposed major threat on their opponents, but it only takes 1 second to change this game. Here's Kevin down the left side up against Canvo. Back it goes to Castagna. Now Bassi. Across to Anderson. Down the right to Tete. Tries to bypass the man. Whips it in. Kevin's header. He had a free header, and he just couldn't get it anywhere near the target. Wide for a goal kick. Yeah, good ball out to Tete, and then Tete spots the run of Jimenez and actually goes for the target of Kevin, who made the late run. In the end, the header just off target by Kevin, who's reacting at the last seconds. No joy there for Fulham. This is where this game is at the moment. Do you go all out to try and win the game and risk losing it? Or will both sides be pretty contented with a point here, considering the circumstances? That's the question marks that both managers will have to find the answers to between now and the final whistle. Marco Silva and Oliver Glasner. There are two teams in a real tussle at the minute, but which one will clinch it? We'll both go for a score draw. Oh, it's given away cheaply there by Palace. Here's King, well met by Mark Gahey. He does really well as Wharton round the corner finds Camara. Now Pino back to Wharton, who feeds it out wide for the space of Canvo, bursting down the right hand side. But Kevin on the cover, quite incredible, tracking back there, sees it out for a Fulham goal kick. Adam Wharton frustrated with his team there. The fact they didn't go more towards the area. He's got a good point. Bit of frustration there from Adam Wharton. Iwobi. Anderson. Just keeping it moving, Fulham. Switching out to the left-hand side. Castagna gets his head to it. Will just about be kept in by Kevin. Back to Castagna, who completely undercooks it to Wharton, but he felt he was impeded in the process. Wharton trying to switch it to the left, as Mitchell was well seen off the ball there by Wilson. Referee letting the game flow a bit more now. Down the right-hand side. Wilson takes the shots and right at Dean Henderson from long range. He just saw the space open up, ready for the shot, had to go. Nowhere near in the same category as his goal, but not a bad effort. Is there to be some late drama at the cottage, under the lights, Sunday afternoon / evening? Is the 3 points still on the line for one of these two teams, or will it be a point apiece? Canvo. Wharton back to Richards. Richards a little bit in stride there, almost overheading it back to Henderson, who does control it. Richards. Canvo. Into Pino, who's just trying to fend off Calvin Bassey. He does well. Not many have done that today, and Kamara fires it wide. Beautiful ball. Mitchell with a chance. Uche! Heading it straight at Bernd Leno, who threw himself at that ball, but that was, again, really beautifully worked by Palace. Great ball by Kamara around the corner. Mitchell doesn't take his time. Hits it first time as he gets onto the ball. Across for Uche, stretching for it, and throwing himself as it was Bernd Leno to deny him. That was a good move by Palace and well stopped by the Fulham goalkeeper. Palace with a corner on the right hand side, and the side of which their travelling fans have come across London, in which they reside behind that goal. Wharton to take. Now footed, it's fed to the edge of the area, bouncing around with a shot from Pino. The flags behind for the corner. See that one again. Fulham far too compacted into the 6-yard box. Everybody's in there, and Pino just sneaks into the 18-yard area. Well delivered in. Almost gets a clean shot at goal. Corner whipped in this time. Oh, and flicked on! And in it goes! And it's Mark Gahey, and Crystal Palace are back in front again and could steal all 3 points at Craven Cottage. The captain steps up and could be the winner for Crystal Palace. Came from the corner, whipped in beautifully, and the header struck well past Bernd Leno. See it again. Right-footed delivery. And Mark he pops up within a mix of a number of other players. He loses his marker in Josh King and just pops up at the last second through a number of Fulham players. Clean connection. Leno had no chance. Wonderful header by Mark Gahey, and Crystal Palace lead with mere minutes to go. Fulham 1, Crystal Palace 2. Fulham need to move quick if they're going to get something out of this now. And Mark Gahey with the magic captain's moment to give Crystal Palace the lead. Second time of the day that Palace have gone in front. Can Fulham respond for the second time today, or will that be the final calling? Double change from Fulham. Alex Iwobi and Harry Wilson are off. Tom Kearney and Adama Traore are on for Fulham. The dying embers. A minute and a half of normal time to go, plus the additional time. Can Fulham respond? The crowd energised to try and help them in trying to do so. Only their 3rd defeat at home this season it would be if they were to lose. It would be their 8th overall if they were to fall to defeat here, Fulham. They would sit 4 points ahead of 18th place West Ham, within touching distance of that relegation zone. Crystal Palace winning at the moment, be their 7th of the season. And it would be up to 26 points and up to 4th in the table if they hang on here. And they would be the team with the most points picked up away from home this season if they were to see this one through. 16 of their 26 points they would have picked up on the road this season, Palace, if they're to hold on here. That is quite a statement. Palace a little bit sloppy there down the left-hand side. One back by Tete. Now Anderson, a little bit more energy needed from Fulham. Anderson relaying that message. Castagna down the left to Kevin. We'll see how long will be added on in the next 20 seconds or so. Whether there is another twist in this tale, another opportunity for a response from Fulham. Not on that evidence as Tete tries to find it out wide, but to absolutely no one, and out for the throw. As we will have 6 additional minutes. It's more than enough time, and Palace readying another change. Justin Devaney readying himself to come on very shortly. Here's Kearney. Castagna. To Kevin. Kevin taking on Canvo. Kevin going to skip past Canvo, but he works it back to Castagna. Fires it into the area. Jimenez trying to throw himself at it. Punched away by Henderson. And Pino does just enough to see it away from Tete. Not in a hurry to get forward as Pino recycles it back to his captain, Mark Gahey. Tries to swing it out wide to Kamada. Just a little off target. Certainly keeping them honest, Fulham. Keeping Crystal Palace honest in these dying minutes. As Devaney's coming on and Jeremy Pino's going to be replaced. 4th change of the evening for Crystal Palace. As it stands, trying to hold on for a victory. A victory that's become much more common at Craven Cottage over the last few years. Much more of a usual outcome. This one a little tougher though to try and come by. Just keeping the ball moving at the minute, Fulham. Nice work in between the lines. Kearney brought down. That's going to be a free kick. It's actually Sasa Lukic brought down by Uche, but free kick to Fulham in the Palace half. And around about 33 yards out, 32 yards out. Wide on the right hand side. You would bet on it being more of a delivery rather than a direct free kick from this sort of area. You never know though. It is a switch ball out to the right hand side. Going short. Chukwueze. Back it goes. Kearney trying to deliver. Back in. Back post headed down. Bouncing it round. Kevin keeps it alive. Swung in by Anderson. Oh, a miss punch by Henderson. But it bounces down and behind for a goal kick. Halfway through the additional time, yeah. Headed back down by Anderson. Kevin kept it alive. Then back to Joachim Anderson, who dinked it around the back. And Dean Henderson completely missed it, but luckily for him it just bounced off the ground and went out for a goal kick. But could be much more dangerous. In the end, it wasn't. I'm sure Dean Henderson, the most relieved man at that. We talked about key moments. We talked about one moment could change this game. This has been so evenly matched right the way through. One bit of quality can change it. And at the minute, it's the Palace captain, Mark Gahey, that has that extra little bit of quality. And a moment of class to change this game in Crystal Palace's favour. But is there one more response, one more chance from Fulham? Kevin down the left-hand side finds Castagna, whips it across, bouncing around the area, is scrambled away by Mitchell. His goalkeeper was ready and waiting to come for that one, but Tete has to evade a challenge. Nice little 1-2 there with Chukwueze. Lukic beaten off the ball. Referee says no foul as he's shoved out of the way, and Uche feeds it down the right-hand side for Kamara. Right area of the pitch for Palace. They can finish it here. Uche tries to go himself. He had Devaney open. Wanted a foul, not going to get one. So here come Fulham. Up the other end and slid out of play there. Down the right side by Kamara. Out for the throw. Last minute of the game approaching. Oh, Fulham a little bit caught loose. Justin Devaney steps in for Palace. Lacking all composure at the minute, Fulham, if they want to try and get something. Here's Mitchell. Surrounded by bodies. Works it back to Devaney. They're trying, maybe just going to manage this game out now, Palace, if they can hold on to it. As the seconds tick down in the 96th minute. The game is surely, barring a bit of madness now, going in Crystal Palace's favour. Let's wait and see. Bern Leno might get one more chance here as they get it back, Fulham. Clock is dwindling away. Anderson pumps it forward. Away by Richards, only as far as Jimenez. Back to Kevin. Looking for the run of Jimenez around the corner, and he puts too much on it. And that should really be the last action, I'm sure, of this game. When Dean Henderson takes this kick, that should be the final whistle. Marco Silva looks on in desolation. Let's wait on this. Dean Henderson with the kick. And there is the final whistle. Crystal Palace edge it out at Craven Cottage. Captain Mark Gahey with a crucial goal in the 87th minutes to edge it in the South London club's favour. Fulham thought they had taken lead in the game at one point in that second half, but VAR came to Palace's rescue, and in the end it was Mark Gahey that had the final say. It all started with Eddie Nketiah found the net with his first goal of the season in the first half. Harry Wilson's beautiful little bit of quality found the Fulham equaliser. But in the end, as I said, Crystal Palace, through Mark Gahey, had the crucial moment that picked up all 3 points for the Eagles. They soar up to the top 4, and the Eagles are sky high in the Premier League at the minute. Final score at Craven Cottage, it's finished Fulham 1, Crystal Palace 2. And a reminder of all of the results from this weekend in the Premier League. There are close ones, some tight ones, some draws in there too, and some pretty distinctive scorelines as well. We've had it all this weekend in the Premier League, and this one, another one to excite. Funnily enough, this is the only away win of the weekend, the first of the weekend, and the only one as it stands at this minute in time. Liverpool came close, West Ham came close already over the last few days, but no cigar for them. But it is all 3 points in all full glory for Crystal Palace on the road, and what a job Oliver Glasner is doing with his team. Let's recap then what that does to the Premier League table then for you. We can tell you who sits where and what that means for these two teams, as we're almost concluded on match day 15. Arsenal top of the tree still on 33, but Manchester City creeping up behind them on 31, as are Aston Villa on 30. Then come Crystal Palace, who are the best of the rest at the minute. They're on 26 points after just beating Fulham, their 7th win of the season. Then come Chelsea, who dropped points yesterday. Everton up to 6th. Then come Brighton and Sunderland on 23 points, along with Liverpool down in 9th. And making up the top half comes Spurs with 22 points. Into the bottom half, Newcastle up a place, a couple of places after their victory against Burnley yesterday. They're into 11th on 22, as are Man United on 12th and 22 points. But they can jump up to close to the top half, or the top 4. They will be 6th with a win tomorrow, away at Wolves. They've still to play, of course. Bournemouth on 20. Brentford on 19. Then come Fulham, who've lost this evening, their 3rd defeat in 5. They're on 17 points in 15th. Leeds with a big point against Liverpool, big 4 points for them in the last 2 games, has moved them outside the relegation zone by 2 points, Leeds, so a big few days for them. They're on 15 points, as are Forest. They're on 17 and 17th on 15 points. And then at the bottom 3 looks like this. West Ham, despite leading the game, but they've picked up some decent points in the last few games. If you look at their tally there, that's 6 points from 5 games. 3 draws, 1 win and 1 defeat. So not a bad return for West Ham. Mixing my words up there. Not a bad return, but not enough to get them outside the bottom 3 come the weekend's conclusion. They're on 13 points. Burnley, who've now lost each of the last 6, they're on 10 points. And Wolves, 12 defeats out of 14. They play tomorrow night against Man United, looking for something positive for their season, but they're on 2 points. Rock bottom of the table. That is it from us. Reminder for you, Wolves against Man United is tomorrow at 8 o'clock to round off match day 15. But it's been an intriguing weekend. But it is the Eagles who soar up to 4th. They're flying high in the Premier League this season. 7 wins already this campaign. They're on course for Champions League football as it stands. And they share taking all 3 points out of Fulham in this game, when it could have been so close in the end. But it seemed so far after the final whistle. Final score finished Fulham 1, Palace 2. Thanks for your company, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Night night.